Okay, guys, so for past lessons, we've been talking about everything from dealing with conflicts to treating each other with kindness. Big things that we need to remember to do, especially when we're in a house together. Um, so we've also been talking about how certain people feel about things, and we've talked about behaviors that people do. There are sometimes that things that people do that annoy other people, like if you're making a sound over and over again, or you keep asking for something over and over again. That's gonna probably annoy your brother or sister or your parents, or maybe your brother or sister is doing that to you, and it's annoying to you. So when we have really strong feelings, like we're really angry about something or really excited about something, a lot of times we go ahead and do the first thing that comes into our mind, the first thing that we feel like doing. Like you're really irritated that your brother broke your toy, so you go and smack him. Well, whenever you do the first thing that comes into your mind without thinking about it, that emotion that you acting on that emotion that's really strong, and normally turns out pretty bad, right? You smack your brother, you're probably gonna get in trouble, or beat up if they're bigger than you. And when we get in trouble, we feel sorry. Maybe we're sorry that we get in trouble, or we're sorry that they hit us back, or we're sorry that we did something wrong, which really is what we should be feeling. Often, when we act on those emotions without thinking, we hurt others and we find ourselves in trouble. So, just a quick reminder to kind of go through that control poster. What's it tell us to do before we get to the green light? That first thing, we need that red light before we act on that emotion or that thought or that feeling, even if it's really strong. Stop. Take a deep breath. I've actually been working on Quinn for that, and having him take a deep breath and relax and think before he does something. After you take a deep breath and you think, go to yellow. Think of a plan. If I'm really upset, I could smack him, but that's probably not a good idea. If he did something that's bad, I could tell him that it upsets me or ask for my toy back. Or I could go talk to mom and dad. Think of a plan. But think about what the result could be. If your plan that you come up with when you're going to the yellow step is that you're going to hit him again, you probably should rethink that plan. That plan's probably not going to work out very well for you. So take a deep breath, think of a plan, think about what could happen if you follow that plan, and then for green, after you come up with a plan that you think is really going to be successful, then try it. Let them know how they make you feel when they call you a name, or when they take your things, or when they won't give you a turn on the video games. Think of that and then act on it, okay? Act on it in a positive way as best as you can, okay? All right, so we're gonna jump into our book, Rosie Revere, Engineer. And this is a good one, because it deals with situations where Rosie was upset and frustrated, and she had to think of a plan, and she even thought of a plan that didn't quite work out quite so well. So we'll see what happens because of that. So it's a classroom and there's a teacher. Wish my hair looked like that. This is a story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lilia Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. It's a tongue twister. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. So she is doing some designing with some recycled materials. And engineers plan and design new things. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. Oh my goodness, that's a bunch of stuff. It's kind of hard to see for you guys, but there's a ton of stuff there. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for her uncles and aunts. A hot dog dispenser and helium pants. That's pretty interesting. Helium pants. Floating. I don't know how I feel about that. The uncle she loved most was zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head. From parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. I did not know that. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud, but Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, poor Rosie, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. So she's confused and upset. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. I love it, Fred hooted. Oh, truly I do. But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day kept her dreams to herself. So she's upset, right? Disappointed and has her feelings hurt, but she doesn't talk about it, which she came up with a plan, right? She hid her invention, but she didn't talk about it or let Uncle Fred know how it made her feel, and so probably wasn't the best decision because it kept her from sharing her inventions, at least for a little while. And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rosie was a true dynamo who worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. So there's actually a poster from World War II called Rosie the Riveter, which is a lady who works on airplanes. That's kind of who this character is based on. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams. That night as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at her cheese hat and said, no, not I. But questions are tricky and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half done, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Oh my goodness, a cheese copter. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Hello Cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned around to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, to build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer. Oh, sad face. She turned around to leave, but then great-great-aunt Rosie grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. You did it. Hooray, it's a perfect first try. The great flop is over. It's time for the next. Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. I failed, said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed. Yes, said her great aunt, it crashed, that is true. But first it did what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. It did. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rosie tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 built gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. There was some interesting inventions, a logmobile, and a airplane apartment, and a disco ball hat. Interesting. Very nice. Well, I hope you get to invent something today. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and we will do our science and art experiment. See you then.